Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. In Ashtavalkya Gita, there is one chapter which is entitled, Let Everything Dissolve. A few days ago, here in Satsang, for those of you who weren't here, I mentioned I asked the question more pointedly, what is that? What is it that you cannot let go of? What is there that you believe about yourself, think about yourself? That if everything were to dissolve, this personality, this life that you think you have been living, if it was all to dissolve, all your beliefs, what is it that you couldn't let go of? Sri Ramana asked the question, who am I? And he encouraged us to keep asking this question of ourselves. Who am I? What am I referring to? But I've also found it very helpful for everyone to ask this question, what is it that I cannot let go of? Because if you're going to uproot this I, it's important that you know, in some way, for many people, what is it that I'm clinging to on a very deep level? And it can be something as simple as I'm male or I'm female. Something that we haven't noticed before. That because or I'm something in between those two. Is something that we haven't noticed before. That if it's challenged, we actually grab at it. We cling to it. And we say, no, I can let go of everything else, but not that. This I know about myself. So I cannot be anything different. But the reason the sage said, let everything dissolve, is because what's being pointed toward is that everything you cling to is an extension of the belief in self and other, me and you, I and they, this experience of separation. And this is rooted in the way that you identify. Now, that's not to say that you can't acknowledge that you're in a female body, you're in a male body, you're in a body that is somewhere between those two. It's just to say that what is not, in terms of the physical world, the mental world, the emotional world, is not the limit of who you are. So if you ask this question, who am I? You have to understand that what you are getting ready to do is chop at the root of every single thing, every single idea, every single concept you have about yourself. that is rooted in the personal identity. Some of them you like. These are the things you like about yourself. You cling to them because they make you feel good about yourself. You are kind, you are generous, you are loving, blah, blah, blah. And of course, the things that you equally cling to, but you're trying to push away, are the things you don't like about yourself. You are upset a lot, you are emotional, you are angry, you are defensive, whatever it is, you are defining yourself in some way. The sage is indicating to us in the Gita to let whatever we think about our personal identity dissolve. He's not saying, push it away, get rid of it, don't be anything, don't believe anything, don't have any opinions. He's saying, understand that none of that is who you are. This is the same thing that Bhagavan was saying by the question, who am I? He was not saying, answer the question, who am I? He was saying, investigate. Ask at the root of this I, who am I? What is this I? So that you can let whatever it is you believe about yourself, your situation, your past, your present, your future dissolve. You can just let it dissolve. Because there's nothing you can cling to anyway. You know, all of you know this. You have the experience of having something which was really difficult for you, which was here for some period of time, maybe even a long period of time, a relationship, you know, an illness, something like that. But eventually it departed. It's gone. Something that you loved, a person, a place, a car, a house, something that you loved. But eventually it was gone. Everything which you try to identify with, or you do identify with, based in this life or based in a past life, everything you identify with binds you to this recognition that you are the body, to this belief that you are the mind, you are the emotions you're experiencing. Whatever you identify with binds you. Whatever you allow to dissolve frees you. We all know that we can be tied up in a difficult situation for a period of time. We feel very bound. We feel limited. We don't know what to do. But when that situation is gone, we are free. So we know that it's not me which is bound. It also is not me which is freed. This is just the experience that's happening in the world, that's happening in the mind, that's happening in the body, that's happening in experience. This is what's happening. It simply is what is. So the instruction, ask the question, who am I? Or let everything dissolve, is pointing us to this recognition that as soon as we allow something which has flowed through our awareness to go its own way, in its own time, without any kind of personal identification with what's happening, or what has happened, or what might happen, as long as that is allowed, then everything has this quality of dissolution. And so it goes. And we are liberated from it, and at the same time we are liberating the experience itself by not clinging to it. So whatever you think you are, whoever you think you are, however you defined yourself, it's all fine. Just know it's not the limit of who you are. You are being consciousness. Things will come and go throughout your experience. Someone once asked Bhagavan, how long do I have to do the inquiry? How long do I have to ask this question, who am I? And another person asked him another time, do the sages still have to do the inquiry? His answer was simply, ask the question, who am I? Whenever the I arises. Whenever the I arises. It's not a question of whether you are a sage or not. It's, are you doing the sadhana? And if there is a difficulty for you, do the sadhana. But even doing the sadhana does not define you. Yes, it doesn't define you as someone who is doing sadhana and therefore is not awakened, who still needs to ask the question, who am I? The nature of being consciousness is that it is always here, always firm, always clear, always awake. That may not be the experience you have in the body-mind. Do you understand you are not the body-mind? You are not the body-mind, whether what the body-mind is experiencing is pleasant or unpleasant. You are not the body-mind, whether what is going on in your life in this moment is pleasant or unpleasant, is difficult or challenging. You are not that. The degree to which you suffer is directly related to your desire to have what is here now be other than what is here now. The suffering is proportional. So if you are suffering a lot in a certain circumstance right now, or in your mind, in your body, understand that the suffering that you are experiencing is directly proportional to the identification that you have with the body-mind complex and with what is available and being witnessed by the being consciousness itself. But you are not what is being witnessed. You are not what is being observed. You are not even the subject which is observing the object. You are beyond that. Before that, I don't know how to say that. You are before that. All of that is arising in your own being consciousness. The question isn't whether what's here now is the right thing for you. Of course it is. How do you know that? It's here now. You have made the commitment to progressive awakening, to being in the present moment, here now, as this, until the recognition of being consciousness is full and complete in you. So whatever is here now is just what is the current barrier to you opening your heart further, to you knowing yourself as being consciousness and bliss. That which is real and permanent is awareness itself, being consciousness. That which is passing, impermanent, is the unreal. So when you are in a difficult situation, and I know this is not easy to do, but it is necessary and important. When you are in a difficult situation, you are really being challenged. The solution is not out there. It's not that I change the situation, change the person. That's not the solution. The solution is to ask the question, who am I? How am I identifying with this? How is this working in consciousness that when this difficulty is here, when this suffering appears in this life, I somehow amplify it? What is it, the thought pattern? What is the habit pattern in the mind? That rather than liberating the thought by letting it dissolve, I grab it. I make something out of it. I engage in it. And this is not just to make it possible for you not to experience things. This is for you to make it possible for you to fully embrace whatever is here now, to live in it in this moment, in this here and now, as it needs to be lived in this moment, here and now, even when it's difficult, even if you look bad, even if your pride is hurt, the way you behaved, even if you have to say something which on the surface can sound very harsh to someone, but it's what they needed to hear, and you cannot stop yourself from saying it. It just comes out. Even when that is going on, to understand this is being consciousness. This is not me. To not identify with what is here in the immediate moment is freedom. It's not freedom if there is a pattern of suffering that happens, which you then carry from the experience for an hour, a day, a week, a month. Because in awakened being, in being consciousness bliss, there is no residue for any experience, any thought, any emotion. There is no residue. It simply comes, it stays for a period of time, and it goes. And when it goes, it's let go. This is the dissolving part. Everything is allowed to dissolve, and when it dissolves, it's allowed to dissolve completely so that there's no residue left in the mind, body, or emotions. There's no residue left. This is not a way of giving you permission to behave in any way you want and say there are no consequences. Because what other consequences there are in real time, you will have to deal with. And this is one of the ways we learn, isn't it? We say things, we do things, we behave in ways that we wish we hadn't. And then there is some consequence. And sometimes that consequence goes on for a minute or interrupts a relationship. Sometimes that consequence can go on for years, and it can take a long time to unwind the consequences of what was said, done, and so on. So it's not that we are trying to avoid anything. What we are doing is understanding that in this moment, here now, this is the only reality there is. And so, if I make a fool of myself, if I hurt my own pride, if I say something unkind, if I do something unkind, that's what happened in that moment. Now I am living with the consequences of that, but always with the understanding that what I am looking for is to know who is this I that is acting in this way, thinking in this way, conceptualizing in this way, behaving in this way. If we engage the inquiry in this way, the inquiry uproots all of these vasanas, all of these tendencies. If what we do is attack directly a particular vasana, a particular situation, and engage in it as a me, we perpetuate it. Because we're coming out of ego identification. But as soon as we say, I think I will keep quiet. I don't know what's happening here. I don't understand. If I keep quiet, I mean keep quiet in the mind. I don't mean you stop talking. I don't mean you don't tell somebody, stop that, don't behave that way, don't do that. Don't treat that animal that way. Don't treat your spouse that way. Don't treat me that way. I mean that behind that there is a silence that you are aware of, right? This is why I refer to this as conscious process, because the process must go on, but it must go on in full awareness here now. It can't go on in the past. It can't go on in the future. In a way, it can't even go on in the present. But as it's going, and as you're dancing in whatever process is going on, there is this recognition that being consciousness is here now. And I am, in fact, the space which is holding this entire dance, whether the dance is beautiful or the dance is really disturbing. I am still the space of awareness which is holding this. Awareness itself is holding this space. It is what is here now, so I will dance. Sometimes I dance very quietly. Sometimes I dance quite wildly. When there is no identification, there is no residue. Whatever you are dancing with, whomever you are dancing with yourself, dancing with an apparent other, you are liberating it all. You are liberating it all. Have no doubt about who you are. You are here for freedom. Let everything dissolve. And when this final dissolution comes, some of you have been reporting to me lately, it's been quite lovely, been coming after the satsangs or in between the satsangs and telling me that you are having this direct perception now of the me which is dissolving. And of course, there's a great deal of joy that comes with that. For some, there's fear. Me is all I've ever known. So if now I realize there is no me, and this personality has nothing substantial about it, then the question, who am I, becomes serious business. This is just the ego looking for an alternative to the me that was here before and trying to establish a new me. But if you continue to allow your experience to dissolve, you enter into the empty recognition that all of this is that who you are is being, consciousness, liberated and free. And you can allow the dance just to be whatever it is. Your essence is freedom. The next chapter, after the chapter in the Gita, which is entitled, Let Everything Dissolve. I can't remember the exact words of the title of the chapter, but it's something like, there is nothing to dissolve. So first we have to undertake this recognition of what is the conscious process in us. And then we ultimately come to the realization that it was all a dance. The dance of life, Leela, as we say. The dance of Maya. But when there is no I, there is no me, there is no mine, there is no other, there is only this. And all of this has no foundation in the body, mind, or world. Nothing to dissolve, no one to dissolve, no one to be, nowhere to go. Just this, moment by moment recognition. That which is aware is here now.
Can I ask?
Hmm?
Can this question be used of this me? Because as I understood, it's kind of that it's a bonus being this me.
It's a what?
Like some good things coming with being me, kind of for the
yes,
mind.
apparently.
It seems like this.
Yes.
I mean, you, as I understood, you are talking about that it's kind of opposites connected. Like one idea is I am loved, one idea I am like abandoned, hated, and it's kind of interconnected.
Yes, the
these
duality
beliefs.
is definitely interconnected. Yes. Yes. So there are always good things around this whole idea of me, mine, you. Yeah, this whole experience, there's always good things that happen in that. And this is what keeps us dancing in it, right? This is what keeps us pursuing desires, pursuing people, situations, circumstances.
So this is my question. If I see very clearly these ideas that, for example, I hate people, I don't want me to be disturbed, like all the negativity, it's very clearly seen. But maybe I should seek for the opposite ideas, like I am loving, I am just kind, I am happy, and all the opposite side.
Yes, well, of course, the world will definitely benefit if you behave as happiness, even if it's not so true of you in the moment. The practice of happiness is very powerful. It's much better for everyone around you for you to do the practice of happiness than it is for you to do the practice of I hate people. Yeah? So on that very practical level, this is a much more wholesome kind of practice, because one of the first principles of spiritual expression is do no harm. So if you are practicing happiness, it's very difficult for you to do harm. If you're practicing I hate the world, it becomes much easier. So it's very good in that way. But the deeper understanding is really that you are expressing that these feelings inside you that sometimes come to mind in your thoughts that say, I hate people, or I don't want to be around people, or I wish people were different. These are causing you to suffer. You see these ideas in yourself, and inside you, you feel your heart sort of clench around them a little bit. Isn't it so? Yeah.
And it all dependent on the idea that I like to be loved.
Yeah.
And I like to
Of course,
be like
everyone likes to be loved,
like accepted or something like this.
Yeah.
And maybe this I like to be accepted even causes more identification.
Well, unless what you're saying is I want to be accepted as the self. I want to accept that I am being consciousness bliss. If what you're saying is I want to be accepted and be loved as an external exercise, now what you are going to try to do is you are going to try to shape yourself into something or someone that others will find pleasing. You see, and then this will just lead to an increased level of suffering. This is why it's always important for us to look deeply into the question, who am I? Not as, am I good enough? Am I pretty enough? Am I wise enough? Am I handsome enough? Am I going to be, I need to be, as an example, I need to appear as a sadhu, a sage, a saint, so that the world will love me when they think that if I get it right, they'll think I'm really a good person and they'll really love me. Well, this is a lot of people's motivation for doing spiritual practice. And it's just coming from this place of I'm not good enough as this experience, which I was before, I am now. So I will move over here. I will change my clothes. I will change my name. I will change where I'm living. I will change my thinking in some way. And I will try to put out this other impression to people so that they will love me, so that they will think I am wise, I am good, I'm virtuous in some way. Well, this is just going to lead to suffering also, because that kind of glass house can be seen through so easily, and it will come crashing down eventually. What you are really looking for is not to be loved, but to be love. Not to know you are loved, but to know you are love. If you know you are love, if you know that the source of you, this source of the experience of me, which is trying to satisfy itself in the world through desire of one sort or another, if you know the source of that is already free, already liberated, already aware, and that everything that's going on is going on as an expression of that liberation, then you have achieved your goal, to be love. And love comes naturally to you, not because you are demanding it of people or you are turning yourself into some shape that other people find acceptable. But
I think this can be the game, because it's like the idea is that if I get everyone to love me, then I will be happy.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
and maybe for some people it even comes, like for stars, movie stars who are like getting a lot of attention, a lot of this,
Yes.
that it's like bullshit actually.
Yes, and almost to a person, eventually they have some interview in some magazine or on some video or some TV program where they say, "This is what I thought I wanted," and it's just terrible. It's just terrible. You know? I think often when someone says something about movie stars and stuff, I think of Jim Carrey. I don't know if you know him. He's an American, extremely successful, extremely talented comedian who basically has completely dropped out. He's now becoming known as an amazing painter, and he is an artist now who's just painting. And when he does a rare interview, all he talks about is the recognition of the self. Through the process of attaining great wealth and great fame, what he came to realize was there was only being consciousness. And of course, he doesn't use those words. He uses the words that are part of his experience. But this is what he's talking about, that he found happiness after he found fame and after he found enormous wealth. And it wasn't in the money and it wasn't in the fame. And so he walked away from it. He found happiness within himself and he walked away. But that's rare. Many people who achieve that kind of fame, they can't ever escape that sadness and they end up suffering throughout their lives. Some commit suicide because they know that this was a shell game, that they were always looking for something that wasn't there. And they didn't know how to go forward from there. He learned through his experience, through this observation, this conscious process of watching the way his mind worked, how to go forward. This is available to all of us if we're looking in the right direction. The direction is toward the source. This is the purpose of the question, who am I? The direction is not into one side of the duality, and that's not working, so I propel myself to the other side of the duality, and I set my life up in a completely different way. I liken this to looking at a series of boxes, and if you look, there are boxes that are side by side, and this box over here is black, and this box over here is clear. So we start our spiritual journey when we realize that we can't see anything, but we feel something within ourselves. And so we begin this journey and we move from this box to this box, which is a little bit lighter. Maybe it's blue box. And we learn more and we understand a little bit more. We have a little bit more innate wisdom coming to us because we are really looking at what is the cause of this suffering? What is the source of this suffering? And how can I free myself from it? Then we come to a green box, then a yellow box, then a pale yellow box, then the clear box. And the final step is when we realize that we're in the clear box, but it's still a box. And now there's only one thing to do. That is to jump up, to liberate ourselves from all the boxes and go into a free fall, resting our minds, our hearts in the lap of being consciousness, in this kind of trust. Now we're no longer plagued by what happens on this side of the duality or that side of the duality. That's not to say that experience becomes even, steady. It does become that in some way, but not experience itself. What's behind experience becomes even, steady, stable. Experience does what it does. And this goes on even for the realized sage. This is called parabdha karma. For the realized sage, there is still, right? Being is still birth, old age, sickness, and death for this body. What is liberated is the mind, is the recognition that being consciousness is the foundation for all of this. And so we keep turning toward that. We make a commitment, in fact, to get off of this dance of duality. I'm going here, I'm going opposite, I'm going opposite, I'm going opposite, I'm going opposite. Always trying to find some happiness. We find momentary happiness. Please.
And it's like a strategy.
Yeah, it is a strategy because it works for a long time. And we are satisfied with momentary happiness. So we pursue a desire. As soon as the desire is realized, we say, oh, I'm happy. Huh? But soon that realized desire becomes boring. So we start looking for, oh, what else? What else do I need now? You know, it's like we start out as a young person and we buy our first automobile, and it's an old car and it's not very pretty, but we love it because it's the first one we could buy. So we buy it. Then we get, after a while, we become, and we're very happy with it, right? As a 16-year-old, an 18-year-old, we're very happy with it. So we say, okay, very happy with this. But some time goes by and we keep seeing the cars that are prettier and newer and have better electronics. And so we say, okay, I will get something. So we pursue that desire. We succeed. We get a newer car, nicer paint job, better electronics, better stereo, right? This goes on for a while. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. 6 months later, we're looking around at the cars going by. Oh, I think I need that one. And we do this for a long time. And each time, the happiness that was there, associated with the object, with the new car, seems to just disappear. Where did it go? It was here. The reason we felt the happiness in the first place is because happiness is here. What the object does is draw happiness out of the heart. But if we don't know that what's happening is that the happiness is resting here, we will always need new objects in order to feel the happiness which is here. Never realizing the happiness is what was here first. The happiness had to be here in order for the object to draw it out so that it could be recognized. Once we realize that, now we don't need objects anymore. Now we can say, where is happiness? If every time we feel that happiness, we feel some moment of happiness in a person, a relationship, an object, we say, what is the source of this happiness? Is it really this person? Is it really this relationship? What is the source of this frustration and this anger? Is it really this person? Is it really the situation? What is the source of all experience? And we keep coming back to that. Eventually, we come to recognize happiness was here all along. Now I can have objects, but I don't put my happiness in them. The happiness is here. The objects are useful. I can drive in the car. That's useful in some situations. But I don't need to drive a big, expensive, fancy, beautiful car in order to experience happiness. I can be walking on the side of the road in bare feet.
I want to ask about this. Is it that at some point it turns like not about having new car and living good, but about I want Indian visa and stay near Arunachala?
Well, of course. Yeah, it definitely can be about that. So definitely, this is moving from the green box into the blue box, or the blue box into the green box. It can definitely be about that. But that doesn't mean that there aren't practical solutions. There aren't practical things that have to be looked after. Even after if you are living in India as a foreigner, if you want to stay legal to a certain degree, right? You have to know the timings of your visa. This also is not me, right? And having to do the work of renewing your visa is not about establishing an identification in I. It's just what's needed if you want to stay here. If you don't care, you don't do anything. Then you might wander around India for years and nothing might happen, because this is very common. You can meet a lot of foreigners wandering around Arunachala, wandering around India, who have no visas and they have no, this is what's called, sometimes I hear it referred to here as an Arunachala visa. And as long as they don't approach you and they don't ask for it and you don't, have any difficulty with the police, You have no worry. You can live here a long time. I know one man who's been here now more than 25 years. No visa, no passport from his used-to-be country. But no one ever questions him about it. So he's just here. I don't highly recommend that because I know I know other people that have tried to do that and then ended up getting sent back to their home country and billed for the flight and told that they can't come back for 5 years. So if that doesn't bother you, fine. You live your life in freedom. You will be who you are. If you are happy wherever you are. So if you are here and you have a visa, you are happy. If you're here, you have no visa, you are happy. You get sent back to your country and you have to pay a $3,000 flight bill, you are happy. You see, the happiness is in you, not in the objects, the situations. And anytime we are experiencing difficult circumstances, we can ask ourselves, where is this happiness? We can look for this happiness even not in the situation itself, but within ourselves as we find ourselves in the situation. The orientation is not toward the objects, the other, the past, the future. The orientation is toward the here now, toward the recognition that which is aware is here now. That which is here is happy, unborn, undying, being consciousness. If this is your deep knowing, you can go anywhere and endure any circumstance. Then it's just the prarabdha karma of this body finishing out its journey. This is not me that it's happening to. I am sick, I'm in hospital, I am old. This is just the prarabdha karma of this body, having the body. But liberation is permanent. The body is impermanent. So don't look for that which is real and permanent in that which is impermanent and unreal. Solve the situation by knowing what's true and knowing that you are that truth. People come to spiritual life to progressive realization of who they are, to sudden realization of who they are, of who you are. Often with great expectations and lofty ideas about what it will be like as a spiritual practitioner, as a meditator, as a sadhak of some sort. And then there's a great deal of difficulty that happens when one realizes that what you have signed up for is the dissolution of the life you were living, the dissolution of the ideas that you have had all of your life about who you are. Some people make a turnabout at that point and they go back into desiring, pursuing, seeking in the world, finding happiness because they can't face that. I know most of you well enough now to know that that's not a choice you can make anymore. You have already committed. You cannot go back now. There's no future in it for you. Freedom is your destiny. It's who you are. So keep going. Persist. Relax. And know that for you, The answer is clear. You are being consciousness. The recognition and realization of this is why you are here. And if you happen to have a nice life after that, so be it. But you know what? The one who is looking right now, when has these kinds of questions or these kinds of ideas about what spiritual life really means or awakening really means, this one is going to completely disappear. So she won't care. He won't care. As long as you are still struggling with life in some way, keep going. The journey's just not over yet, but it will be. You will come to know beyond any doubt, I am that being, consciousness, eternal, unborn, undying, recognition. So we keep walking on together for this. Huh? Anyone else? We just keep coming together to remind each other who we are. Huh? This is satsang. Hari Om. Tat Sat.